Hello and welcome to BlueTube, where we talk all things blue. And this is the final transfer wishlist video, the third out of 3 parts. The first one being defenders, second one midfielders, and this one I'm going to be talking about the strikers that I wish Chelsea would buy this summer transfer window. If you guys haven't watched the defenders or midfielders yet, I would strongly urge you guys to go check that out first. But if you've already watched it, let's go! The strikers is very interesting. Let me just move this mouse. Sorry about that, guys. The strikers is a very interesting position because of the formation shift. And if you guys haven't watched my Antonio Conte opinions video, go check that out as well. In that video, I talked about, and I gave reasons for this. I talked about how I think the most probable formation that Antonio Conte will go for is a 4-4-2 or a 4-2-4, some variation of that. But essentially a 4-4-2. And you guys know that for the last however many years or so, Chelsea have been rocking a 4-2-3-1 formation. That's a big shift from a 4-2-3-1 to a 4-4-2. And the two areas that it majorly affects is the midfield area, which I covered in the previous video, and the strikers area. Because we go from having one striker to having 2 strikers. And in terms of the play style, that's going to have big differences. But in terms of the players in the squad, that's also going to have huge differences. Currently in our squad, our strikers are Diego Costa, Loic Remy, and I'm not sure if Alessandro Pato is still in our team. I think, because I know that he was loaned, but in that loan contract there was a clause that meant Chelsea could buy him if we wanted to. I don't think Chelsea will. So let's say we have Diego Costa and we have Loic Remy. And of course we have the youngster Bertrand Traore, who I think is phenomenal. So we have those 3 strikers in our squad right now. And that's enough because we only need 1 striker right now. But big changes must happen if we want to win the Premier League next season and if we want to rock a 4-4-2 formation. And one of these big changes is about this man right here, Loic Remy. Loic Remy was a great player for a while, or before we joined Chelsea, he was a great player. At Newcastle, I remember he scored against us once, which hurt a lot. And then when he came to Chelsea, his first season was really good. I think he had one of the best game time to goal ratios in the Premier League, which is quite remarkable. But this season, he's just been awful, in my opinion. It's nothing short of just absolutely horrific, honestly. And I remember this summer, or maybe it was this, I can't remember, sometime either in the summer or this winter window, I said we need to get rid of him, we need to get another striker. I think it was the summer actually, I was saying, in the 2015 summer, I was just like saying, oh, he is not good enough, we need another striker. And, I still stick by that. He was a great player, he was a great striker, but he isn't anymore, and he's nowhere near the quality that Chelsea need. And especially if you want to have a 4-4-2 formation with 2 strikers, we can't have a player like Loic Remy in our team. We just can't. So we need to sell him, get 10 million, 20 million pounds, however much you can get for him, and just hold on to that cash. Get rid of him. Another player, Alessandro Pato, as I said, I don't know what's actually happening to him. I don't think he's a Chelsea player anymore, but just don't sign him on. Don't Chelsea, don't do it. Conte, don't do it. So the secondary striker role is an interesting role. When we go into a 4-4-2, I'm just gonna go back to Pato actually. When we go into a 4-4-2 formation, we're gonna need, in my opinion, 2 main strikers who are world class. We're gonna need 1 supporting striker who needs to be very, very good, but not necessarily that world-class caliber, and 1 extra striker who's there for emergencies. And I think Bertrand Traore perfectly fits that bill because he's a young player. We can give him game time, of course, maybe in some of the less important games, perhaps. And if someone gets injured, he can always fill in and all that kind of stuff. So I think 4 strikers is the best, is the prime spot to have. Currently, if we sell Loic Remy and if we don't take Pato, we have 2 strikers, Costa and Bertrand Traore. And those 2, I think they need to stay. Diego Costa, especially, he needs to stay. But out of 2 we have 2 strikers, right? And I said we need 4 strikers, so we need 2 more. So out of those 2 strikers that we need, One of them has to be a world-class striker, one has to be a supporting striker. I'm going to talk about that supporting striker, who I would buy as that supporting striker first, and then go on to talk about who that world-class striker can be. So, you guys just saw it a few minutes ago. This is Batshuayi. I think that's his name, Batshuayi, a Belgian striker playing for Marseille right now. He is definitely going to move this window because he wants to get out of the French league. He wants to come into the Premier League. He wants higher wages, which Marseille can offer him, and he's looking into the Premier League. And he's actually, at the time of recording this, by the way guys, a lot of these things might have changed. If they have, I'll keep annotations up to update you guys. But as of recording this right now, he's being heavily linked with Tottenham. But the thing is, Tottenham aren't, they're not willing to pay £100,000 a week, that much wages to Batshuayi. Especially considering that their highest earners at the club currently earn about £80,000, I think. So they're not willing to give him £100,000, but he wants £100,000. And Chelsea can offer him £100,000. And Chelsea are actually being linked with a move for him right now. So I'm really hoping that goes through. I think he's the perfect striker for that kind of supporting striker role. He's not world class. He's not, he's not like, he's not as good as Diego Costa, let's say. And I wouldn't put him in the first team necessarily. I'd keep him as the third striker on the bench. Maybe if someone gets injured, put him on. Or if we need a substitute, put him on. That kind of situation. And he's only going to cost around £25 million because that's how much Tottenham are offering right now. That's the price being thrown around right now, £25 million, which I think is a good price for that supporting striker. And Batshuayi is perfect for that role. And of course, he's Belgian, so maybe if we manage to bring in Nainggolan, who knows what could happen. We could have Eden Hazard, Nainggolan, Thibaut Courtois, and Batshuayi in one team. But of course, if you guys watched my midfield video, I would much prefer N'Golo Kante over Nainggolan, but you can go check that out in the other video. But anyway, Batshuayi, he'd be a perfect striker for that supporting role. £25 million. He's only 21 years old, by the way. Belgian striker, very, very good, very, 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 very perfect for the role that I'm thinking of right now. But now let's get to the interesting stuff. Who is going to be the person who stands alongside Diego Costa in that 4-4-2? As I said, we're going to need 4 strikers, 2 of them world class, 1 supporting, so who's going to be Batshuayi, and one kind of emergency backup player, and who I think Bertrand Traoré is perfect for. And out of those 2 world class strikers, we have one already. We have Diego Costa. He is absolutely world class. I don't care what you say. He's amazing. I don't care. I honestly just don't care. He's amazing. Actually, I do care. If you guys disagree with me, be sure to tell me in the comment section. As always, I always make these videos so that I can have conversations with you guys. So, leave your thoughts on anything that I'm saying in this video down there. In fact, leave your transfer wish list for any strikers that you want in the club down there below. I'd love to discuss them with you. But who is going to stand alongside Diego Costa in my kind of vision of the club? Well, there are many strikers, as you will see, that I have thought about and considered very, very deeply for this, and eventually I have come up with one striker that I think fits the bill the best. But let's go on a journey now. How do I do this? There we go. One person that we've been linked with for the last year or so, maybe just over a year now, is Gonzalo Higuain. He is a striker for Napoli, and he's actually being linked for around 60 or 70 million pounds. And he's a good striker, don't get me wrong. Especially this last season, he's been very, very good. He's been very, very prolific, scoring lots of goals. But I don't think he's the striker we want, and especially for what he brings and the value, the money we have to pay for him. 60, 70 million pounds for Higuain, that just doesn't add up for me. That just doesn't work for me. I think he's a great player, don't get me wrong. I just think the price is a bit too much that the Napoli are trying to hold out for. So he would not be on my wish list. Another player to consider is Marco Icardi, and this gets a bit interesting because Icardi, he is being linked in real life to Chelsea, by the way. And apparently, according to some reports, he is the #1 priority for Chelsea. Icardi's a great player. He's actually another one of those players that I've had my eye on myself for a bit now. I think last summer window, I didn't really talk about it, but I had kind of sneakily wish that I wanted Loic Remy to go, and I wanted us to bring another striker, and Icardi was one of those strikers that I kind of had in my mind. Icardi's a great player, honestly. He scores lots of goals. He's very, very fast. He's got a great shot on him. But I just don't think he is the player that we need for because he's a great player, but he's not. He doesn't scream world class for me. He doesn't scream I'm gonna score loads of goals for you consistently, game in game out. To me, that's he doesn't scream that. I think he's a great player. Maybe he could even be that kind of supporting striker role. Maybe, but maybe he'd be a bit too expensive for that actually, which is why I chose Batshuayi for that role. But I don't think Icardi would be the right choice for us to have that second striker lining up against Diego Costa. He's quality, but just in my opinion, not quality enough, if that makes sense. And I have other strikers in my mind who I think are better than Icardi, to put it bluntly. But he's a great player, by the way. I really like him, even though it may not sound like it. Another player that we've been linked with, and we have been linked with for about 2 years now, is Edinson Cavani. And this is an interesting one because Cavani, for the last few months, has been playing really, really terribly, to be honest. I just saw the Copa America highlights between Uruguay versus Venezuela, I think, and Cavani was just awful. He was just awful in that. He missed about 2 sitters in that game. Honestly, it was terrible. And of course, for PSG as well, he's not been playing very well. And in fact, the board, because he hasn't been playing well, has actually had a discussion. It's been made public. Laurent Blanc said this, that they've had a discussion about his future, and they are considering letting him go this summer. So he could be available for a cheaper price for the fact that he's not playing as well as before. And the club are kind of reconsidering things right now. So Edinson Cavani could be available for a cheaper price than usual if we do decide to go for him. Even though his form isn't great, I personally do think that he's still a great player. I think that he's got everything in him to be a great player, especially in the Premier League. And I've wanted him for a long time, honestly. I've wanted him for about 2 seasons now, ever since he started to become linked to us. Ever since he was in Napoli, actually, before he even went to PSG, I've wanted Edinson Cavani because he is a great player, honestly. But to be honest with you guys, a lot of these players that I'm mentioning right now, if any of them were to sign for Chelsea, I would be ecstatic, honestly. But for my dream transfer wish list, I can only choose one striker. So I would not have Edinson Cavani there. But as I said, any of these strikers, if we managed to buy them, I would be very, very happy, honestly. That's just my honest opinion. But he would not be in my dream transfer wish list. Another striker to consider is Alvaro Morata, and he is almost certain to leave this year. In fact, it is certain that he's going to leave the summer transfer window. Because what's going to happen is this. When Real Madrid sold Morata to Juventus, they had a clause in their contract which said that they can buy him back for £30 million. Morata since then has grown into an incredible player worth at least 40-50 million pounds. Way more than 30 million pounds that Real Madrid can use to buy him back. So what's going to happen is Real Madrid is going to buy him back from Juventus, and he's going to sell them to the highest bidder. Because Real Madrid doesn't have any plans to keep him in the squad, especially with the likes of Karim Benzema, roaming that striker position. And I think Vasquez is doing pretty well in Real Madrid as well. So Morata is, in my opinion, it is certain that he's going to leave this summer. The question remains to who. Of course, he's being very heavily linked with the likes of Arsenal, the likes of PSG. PSG seems like they're being linked with everyone, by the way. But PSG, I think they will be looking for a striker, especially with Ibrahimovic leaving, and of course Cavani may be leaving as well. So Morata, we'll face stiff competition for Morata if we do decide to move for him. He's a great striker, by the way. He scores lots of goals. I'm not sure if he scored that many goals this season, actually. I'm not sure about the exact statistics, but he's not that. I don't think he scores as many goals as the other strikers that I'm mentioning on this list today. But he is a great striker, and he's proven himself, especially in that season. I think it was 2 seasons ago, or like in the 2015 season when Juventus reached the Champions League final. He was absolutely amazing that season, along with Paul Pogba, of course. And I do think he's a great player. I just don't think he's the right player for Chelsea. I just don't think that he is that world-class player that we need playing alongside Diego Costa. So he would not be on my transfer wish list. Another player, interesting player, is Jamie Vardy. He kind of burst onto the scene, just like a lot of Leicester players this season. And he is attracting attention from everyone this summer so far. And in fact, I am almost certain that he's going to leave Leicester as well, just from rumors that I've been hearing, just so much speculation surrounding his future. I think that personally, realistically speaking, he's probably going to move to Arsenal. That's my prediction for this, by the way, because they're being linked very, very heavily. By the way, he might have already moved there by the time this video is uploaded. I'm actually filming this about 2 weeks before this video is actually uploaded, just because my exams, you guys know anyway. You guys don't care as well. But Jamie Vardy, yes. He's a great player. He's got the record for most consecutive goals in the Premier League now, going past Van Nistelrooy, which happened early this season. He's a great scorer, but this is the big thing for me. The second half of the season, he kind of disappeared. And he did score a few goals on. I'm not gonna say that he was completely gone. He did have the occasional goal, but he wasn't nearly as good as he was in the first half of the season, in my opinion. And that signals to me that maybe he's not gonna be that kind of consistent beast of a player that we're looking for. And even though he's a great player, no doubt about it, he wouldn't be on my transfer wish list. Just for that simple reason. And to be honest, he's probably going to go to Arsenal anyway, so why bother wishing for someone if you know he's going to go somewhere else? But even if he wasn't going to go to Arsenal, he wouldn't be on my transfer wish list. Another Premier League player, Romelu Lukaku, someone who we're very, very familiar with, someone who used to play for us and was sold by Jose Mourinho. And he's turned into a big star at Goodison Park, and he's scored tons of goals. He's just been an incredible player, really, scoring goals with his head, with his feet, with his left foot, with his right foot, scoring goals all over the place. Romelu Lukaku is an interesting player because when he was a kid, when he first signed for Chelsea, I remember him saying, he always dreamed of coming to Chelsea, and he always dreamed of kind of succeeding Didier Drogba because he was his idol. And when he was at Chelsea, he did have some good games when he did play, but he wasn't that successful overall, and we wanted to play other strikers such as Drogba actually over him, so which is why we sold him to Everton. And he's really, really good. There's no doubt about it. And if we did sign him, I would actually be very, very happy. Honestly, I would celebrate if we signed Romelu Lukaku, but purely due to the fact that I think Chelsea should only sign one striker. I'm only gonna have one striker in my wish list. But know that all these players actually, I said this before, I would be ecstatic if I signed them, especially Lukaku. I think Lukaku could fit in so well at Chelsea. He's used to the Premier League. He's very, very physical. He has a great finish on him, he's very, very good basically. And if we did sign him, I'd be happy. But he wouldn't be on my wish list for the fact that we can only get one striker. Another striker is Antoine Griezmann, and I actually had him on my wish list last season in the summer transfer window when I said who I wanted us to buy. And actually we played a game, me and another YouTuber, we played a game where we had, I can't remember, a certain amount of money, and we could spend it on whoever we wanted, and we could build our own team and see which team was better. And in that team, I used my money to buy Antoine Griezmann because I think he's just an absolute quality player. We have been linked with him ever since he was at Sevilla, I think. Yeah, before he even joined Atletico Madrid for 3 or 4 years now. It's actually crazy, honestly. But he's still a quality player. As I said, if we got Lukaku, or if we got Cavani, or if we got Griezmann, I would be absolutely over the moon. I would. But he would not be on my transfer wish list for the fact that I can only get one player. And I just think there's that one player that I'm going to tell you guys about. I just think he kind of edges it over these guys. But he's another amazing player. Don't get me wrong, he's amazing. Another player who I would be ecstatic to have, but who would not be on my transfer wish list, is Lacazette. He has been playing for Olympique Lyon for a while now, and he's been linked with a move away for a few years, because he's been linked with a move away because he's a great striker, and no disrespect to Olympique Lyon. They're actually a great team. They're doing very, very well in the French league. But I think he has that capability and that quality to be playing in a better league and a better team, if I'm completely honest. But no disrespect to Olympique Lyon. Lacazette, another player that I have loved for a long time. I really, really wanted us to sign Lacazette last summer, actually, because I think he is a quality player, and he has just demonstrated that this season as well. He has been very good, scoring goals all over the place. I think he'd make a great striker at Chelsea. Honestly, he's a beast of a player. But you guys know what I'm gonna say. Listen, Griezmann, Lacazette, Cavani, and that other guy, I can't remember his name. But these players are all phenomenal players, and I would be celebrating if we could buy them. But if I could only buy one striker, that wouldn't be the striker that I would get. But once again, phenomenal player. And another player that I threw in here was Harry Kane, and this is the most unrealistic deal in history. I don't see this happening. Harry Kane currently plays for a London rival of Chelsea, for a rival that's had like one of their best seasons in history, and a rival that's playing in the Champions League. So he's not gonna move from Tottenham, who's in the Champions League after what's that, having an incredible season. And he's not going to come to Chelsea after that, who's not in the Champions League and who's a rival of Tottenham. I just cannot see that happening. But if I could have him, he'd be brilliant. Honestly, I would take him if I could. He's a goal scorer. He knows the Premier League like the back of his hand, and he's proven himself over 2 seasons now, not just 1 season. So I think that's an even bigger incentive for us to go in for him. But actually, I wouldn't go in for him because, as I said, it's a very unrealistic deal. Now comes actually, before I go on to the player that I have chosen, I forgot to put one player in here, and that is Zlatan Ibrahimovic. And that's another quite unrealistic deal, I think, because he wants to be playing in the Champions League. But actually, he's been linked with Manchester United, who's not in the Champions League. Actually, are they? No, they're not in the Champions League. Sorry, I just had a thing there. They're not in the Champions League. But of course, the incentive for him there is to play under Jose Mourinho, who he has very, very close connections with. So he's been linked with a lot of Premier League clubs and a lot of, top European clubs. If I could have him, I'd have him. Like, who wouldn't have Zlatan Ibrahimovic? He has a big ego, he has a big mouth, but he is an incredible player, really. One of the best strikers in the world right now, in my opinion. If I could have him, I would, but I just don't see that happening. And I actually forgot to put him on here, which is my bad. I'm sorry. But now we go on to that striker, which I have talked about. The striker that would be on my wish list is, boom, Pierre Aubameyang, currently playing for Borussia Dortmund. He has scored like 54 goals in the last 2 seasons or something. It's something crazy like that. He is a quality player. He has shown that over many seasons now. Actually, when I play career mode on FIFA, he's usually one of my go-to players, simply because he has incredible potential and he's got crazy pace in FIFA. But even in real life, he's amazing. He's got great pace, he's got great finishing, and he's scored loads of goals. But this is going to be a very, very tough deal because I think that Aubameyang is going to leave this summer. That's my opinion. But who he leaves to is the big, big question. As of recording this right now, Manchester City is being very closely linked. Very closely linked. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he's at Manchester City by the time that I'm actually uploading this video. Because they're being linked very closely, and it's gonna be tough to get him, take him under the grasp of Manchester City, because Manchester City are a very, very successful team. They are 4th place, so they do get Champions League football. This season they're gonna get Pep Guardiola, one of the best managers in the world right now, and it's gonna be very, very difficult for us as Chelsea, as a team who doesn't play in the Champions League, to take Aubameyang, to persuade him to join us instead of Manchester City. But if I could have one striker, it would be him. He's young, he's talented, he's got a huge future ahead of him, and he can score goals. He's absolutely world class, and I think he is one of those up and coming strikers in the world right now. So yeah, he would be on my transfer wish list. So that completes my transfer wish list, guys. Going from the defensive strikers, we have Bonucci at center back, we have N'Golo Kante as center midfielder, we have James Rodriguez, or as second to him, Koke, if we can't get Rodriguez in that center midfield as well. And for the striker, for the supporting role, we have Batshuayi, and for the main world-class striker to accompany Diego Costa, I would have Pierre Aubameyang as my striker. But of course, if we don't manage to get Pierre Aubameyang, which is probably highly likely, I'm gonna put in my second preference as well. This is kind of off the spot right now. So who have we had so far? Griezmann, Lacazette. He would be my second choice striker to go for. So that's it, guys. For the strikers, I would have Batshuayi as my supporting striker who I'd buy, who would be accompanied also by Pierre Aubameyang, or if we can't get Aubameyang, my second choice would be Lacazette. So that completes the quadruple force of our strikers. We have Diego Costa and Pierre Aubameyang, hopefully lining up in the 4-4-2. As a supporting kind of substitute striker role, we have Batshuayi. And we finally have Bertrand Traore, an up-and-coming rising youngster in that kind of fourth emergency supporting striker role, if that makes sense. So guys, that's it. It was really fun to do this whole transfer wish list from the defenders to the midfield to the strikers. And now let me just run through my dream XI, if that makes sense. If all the transfers that I wish for go through, this would be the 11 that we would start the Premier League with. In goal, Thibaut Courtois. At left back, Cesar Azpilicueta. At center back, Bonucci and John Terry, or Cahill or Zuma. But I would definitely have Bonucci starting. So yeah, as I said, accompanied by Terry or Cahill or Zuma. Probably Kurt Zuma, I would think. Because I would like John Terry to start actually, but knowing the board, they're probably not gonna play him as much. So if he is as good, I'd have John Terry, if not Zuma. On the right back slot, Branislav Ivanovic. On the left mid spot, we would have Hazard. On the right mid, we'd have Willian, of course Pedro in the subs. In terms of those two central midfielders, I would have N'Golo Kante accompanied by Cesc Fabregas. And actually, no. This is interesting now. This would depend on the game that we're playing, what kind of tactics that we want to bring in. Do we play James Rodriguez? Do we play N'Golo Kante? Do we play Cesc Fabregas? Actually, guys, now that I'm considering this, I may not even want Rodriguez. James Rodriguez may not be necessary. In fact, I'm gonna amend this right now. For those of you that have watched my midfielders video, forget James Rodriguez. I'm not gonna sell Oscar. I'm gonna keep Oscar, and I'm only gonna buy N'Golo Kante. So that changes my list slightly to Bonucci, but accompanied by N'Golo Kante. No other midfielders, and I'm gonna have Pierre Aubameyang and Batshuayi. So anyway, back to the Dream 11, if that makes sense. I have N'Golo Kante next to Cesc Fabregas, and of course with players like Matic and Oscar in the substitutes. In our right mid spot, I would have Willian. I've already said this. In our strikers, I would have Diego Costa and Aubameyang with Batshuayi in the subs, and also Bertrand Traore accompanying him in the subs as well. So guys, I've made my final amendments. James Rodriguez is out. So let's see how much that costs actually. Going from the defense, Bonucci would probably cost around £30 million, I would think. On top of N'Golo Kante, he's got a 20 million release clause, but let's say around £30 million because we're probably gonna bid higher than that. So £60 million so far. We're not gonna get Rodriguez or Koke, so we can skip that. On top of that, we're gonna get hopefully Batshuayi for £25 million. Let's say 30 million just to get a nice number. So that's 90 million so far. And Pierre Aubameyang probably gonna cost around 60-70 million pounds. So that brings the total up to like 150 million pounds ish. So guys, if I had the budget to say, if I had 150 million pounds at my disposal, and if my name was Antonio Conte, these would be the players that I'd buy. Guys, feel free to tell me your full transfer wish list in the comment section down below. I would love to discuss them with you guys. If you have any disagreements about the players that I've picked, be sure to leave them in the comment section down below. And guys, that completes my transfer wish list. And yeah, thanks for watching, and as always, stay blue.